Hello and welcome back. I'm Brad Browning, and today we're going to talk about how to flip the script on an avoidant ex and make them chase you. Now, this advice applies to about 90% of avoidant exes, so even if yours is pulling away, don't panic. That's just what avoidants do. Now, we'll cover some of the rare exceptions later, but for now, follow this advice carefully and precisely. Now, if you want any chance of getting back together with your avoidant ex, you really need to remember one thing above all others. Getting back together has to feel like their idea. Now, this is true for most exes because, being chased after a breakup just isn't attractive. Imagine you've just ended a relationship that wasn't working, and now all you want is some peace. But your ex won't stop reaching out. They're texting, trying to flirt with you, asking you about the breakup. You'd feel pressured and uncomfortable, right? And you'd probably start pulling away even more. So that's why chasing a normal ex doesn't work. And this effect is actually especially strong with avoidants because of how their attachment style operates. Avoidants feel threatened by closeness at the best of times. And after a breakup, that fear is magnified. So now when you do reach out to them, not only do they feel everything that a normal ex feels, but they also feel this fear. And that's what's going to drive them to pull away, go cold, and avoid you at all costs. So chances are, if you've had any contact with your ex following the breakup, even if it felt minor, this is why they're pulling away from you now. But there is hope, because it's not so much your presence that's triggering these feelings in your ex, it's really your approach. The fact that you're the one reaching out, being clingy, and not getting the message is feeding into a new dynamic between the two of you. You're saying, I need you more than anything else. I'm lost without you. You need to give me affection and attention. You need to answer my questions and reply to all my messages. And you're saying this at a time when what your ex needs most is to be left alone. And this is making you feel like a chore and a threat to their recovery and their peace. So if reaching out to them is going to scare them away and they're not reaching out to you, then how can you stay in their life? Is your only option to keep your distance and slowly fade out of their awareness, out of their life forever? Well, you're actually onto something. But the truth is that keeping your distance from an avoidant doesn't mean that you won't be in their life anymore, because you'll still be in their head. And your presence in their thoughts is actually only going to get more pronounced, at least up to a point. And that's because avoidants live a lot of their life in their heads. It may seem like avoidants aren't thinking deeply about a lot of this stuff because they don't like to share their emotions or participate in emotional conversations. But actually, the opposite is true. It's because they have no outlet for these feelings that they keep them bottled inside and tend to obsess over their problems, their past, and of course, their regrets. So if you talk to them after the breakup, you end up becoming a threat to their peace. But if you avoid them, they still think of you as the person that they broke up with. And the thing about avoidance is that they have big feelings about breakups, because avoidants often don't think through their breakups really as much as they should. They tend to break up as a reaction to uncomfortable feelings rather than as a carefully made decision. So they experience closeness and intimacy, that feeling of being known, and alarm bells start to go off. And because talking about their feelings feels even more threatening, they don't know how to say, let's just slow down and set some boundaries. So instead, they respond by pulling away, by taking space, and eventually ending the relationship. Now, they might do this directly, or they might take the indirect route, ghosting you, just treating you poorly until you end it. But either way, now that the relationship is over, that fear quickly fades away. Since you're no longer there threatening them with closeness that they're not ready for, they no longer feel scared. Now they just feel lonely. They remember all the good things you brought into their life, and now they start to feel lost without you. And so you become one of their biggest regrets. And regrets like that are only going to get worse as time passes. And if you keep staying away, eventually they're going to want to escape this regret by reaching out to you and reconnecting. So this is why I recommend that you stay away from your ex after the breakup. Don't answer most of their calls, don't reach out, and really don't communicate with them in any way. Make them feel maximum regret, and they're going to have incentive to chase you. Now, this, of course, is called no contact, and it's something that I've talked about in many of my past videos. I'll link to one of my best ones in the description below and in the corner here, and that video is specifically about how no contact works on avoidance, so best to watch that one once you're done here if you're not sure how to go about it. But just keeping your distance isn't always going to be enough, because avoidant exes can be extremely stubborn, as you probably know. And remember, this kind of emotional stuff is overwhelming for an avoidant. And so they might need more motivation to break their silence. Going no contact is going to give your ex a chance to miss you, but if you want them to worry that you're really not coming back, you need to take it a little bit further. Avoidants aren't going to act until they're really worried that they're going to miss their chance with you. The first thing I recommend is to ask yourself a question. And that is, what would I do if I was actually fully over my ex? So chances are, you'd move on, and to do that, you might start changing your life, filling it with all the things that you've been missing without them around, or even things that you missed out on because they were in your life. So for example, I had a client whose partner really didn't like him skateboarding. She thought it was dangerous and he'd get hurt, and then she'd have to look after him if anything happened. Now this didn't lead to their breakup, but it did create a lot of tension in their relationship, and eventually he decided to give it up so they could be together. So he was surprised when I told him that now that they were no longer together, he needed to get back on that skateboard. Now naturally he worried that this was just going to be another reminder of the issues that they'd had, and it would keep her from coming back. But thankfully, he trusted me enough to give it a try. And the skateboarding was one of his main hobbies during no contact, and he actually got pretty good at it. He ended up making some new friends, getting some exercise, but the biggest difference that it made was in his ex. When he posted a video of himself in the skate park, she immediately reached out to ask him about it. Now at first she seemed annoyed, but that quickly fell away, and they got back to talking like they used to. Over time they reconnected and successfully restarted their life together. And he told me that she admitted that when she saw him on that skateboard, that was the moment that the breakup really sunk in for her. That was when she realized that she might have actually lost him forever. And so she decided to reach out before it was too late. So really, you need to find your own skateboard. What's something that you'd want to do if you knew that you and your ex were never getting back together? Be bold here, be uncompromising. Remember, they chose to end things, so they have no right to be mad if you go dancing with your friends or get a new job or start even dating somebody new. Yes, I know that dating after a breakup is a hard step to take, but it's going to make your ex extremely jealous, and it can often be the push that they need to start talking to you again. Because not only does it make them fear that they've lost you, it also creates a ticking clock in their mind. They'll immediately realize that if they don't come back, someone else is going to take their place. Now, this time apart can help you set the table for a future with your ex, but it can also be really overwhelming and lead to trouble if you don't know how to handle it. But you're not alone. That is why I offer one-on-one coaching to people in unique situations and those who are just looking for some extra support or an outside opinion. You can get all the details at breakupbrad.com/coaching. Remember, it is okay to ask for help when you're feeling lost and alone, so please think about going to breakupbrad.com/coaching to connect with me now. All right, our third tip here is going to be for after you reconnect with your ex. Now, it's easy to get excited and show your hand or otherwise just fall right back into the dynamic that you had before the breakup. Both of those things are going to be a mistake if you want to win their heart. When your avoidant ex finally reaches out, it's fragile. They're just testing the waters. And what you do next is going to determine whether they stay or they retreat again. Because even if your ex reaches out to you after no contact and says a lot of positive, kind things, it doesn't mean that they're 100% sure about their decision to reconnect with you. Avoidance in particular can be hard to read, and so you want to be careful not to get too friendly and scare them away. So instead of baring your soul and telling them how much you love them and need them, you need to go in the other direction. You need to keep the mystery alive so that they're not sure how you feel. Now, this works particularly well for avoidance because big displays of emotion and vulnerability are overwhelming to them. This is why avoidants are so good at chasing early in relationships and then tend to pull away once they've caught you. They're better in scenarios where emotions are muted and intimacy is not guaranteed. So essentially, if you want them to chase you, you need to let them chase you. And you can do that by keeping your feelings and your intentions a secret. So that basically means no gushing about your feelings and how much you miss them, no big speeches or tough conversations about the past and your breakup. Keep it cool and really live in the moment. You basically really want to give them a taste of their own medicine. Flirt and give them attention and then pull away. Don't respond to their messages right away to give them the impression that you have better things to do or better people to talk to. Make them do a bit of work for your attention and your affection. And this goes hand in hand with keeping your whereabouts and your plans for the future to yourself. So don't tell them every thought you're having or everything you're doing. Give them a chance to wonder who you've been spending time with. If they're wondering about you, they're thinking about you. And so you're living in their head all the time. But that only happens if you're really able to keep this mystery alive in a real way. So that is how you can make an avoidant ex chase you, even if they're pulling away. You start by going no contact, and then you act like you're moving on so that they fear they're going to lose you. And when they reach out, you need to keep the mystery alive to keep their attention. It's simple, but of course it's not easy. So don't half-ass this. Stay vigilant, maintain your focus, And of course, subscribe to my channel to keep learning what you need to know to make the process as smooth as possible. For example, I recently made a video about how you need to treat your avoidant ex if you want to get their attention. And you can find a link to that in the description below or here in the corner. So go watch that now. But before you go, I'd love it if you could like this video and ask me your questions in the comments below. I promise I read and respond to as many as I possibly can. That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and best of luck.